I wanted to show you an example of a terrible slide. And I'm going to show you some other examples too. Okay? Do not ever do this. Okay? But the content on it is great, but if you look at how it's laid out, you have no idea what to look at. And also, I think all of you have pretty much stopped listening to me at this point and are reading it. Yeah? And why not? You can all read. If I'm going to put all this on the slide, why am I here? Okay, but let me explain to you what all this stuff is. Your slides are there to paint a picture of your presentation. They are not there to be a word-for-word script of what you're going to say. That's a paper or an article or a blog, and you post that online maybe. Or maybe sometimes you might just send a presentation to someone, so you put a lot more detail on it. But when you're speaking, your slides are your aid. They're like your visual aid. I sometimes think about them as the pictures in a picture book, you know. They illustrate what you cannot say. So for example, I know that you have access to some of the brain scans, right? It's very difficult to explain to someone what an MRI is, but you can show someone, right? Like that's a great way of using visuals. So I think the thing to think about here is that visuals help represent difficult concepts, but they also help keep your audience on track. You might be covering in the future, you might be giving like a 45-minute presentation. It's really hard for people to pay attention for that long. So your slides are there to keep signposting them, to keep them on track. Slides reveal great, they reveal things that it's hard to describe. They explain things that would take too long to explain in words. And sometimes they can show a sense of wonder. Can you imagine the first time someone saw an MRI? How amazing it must have been for that room. Some of the things you can put on slides I'm going to take you through in a second, but they include full-size pictures. They include phrases, keywords, statements, quotes, statistics, and graphs. But they do not include every single point of everything you're going to say. And that is why I want to take you through this before you start to write it all down on the slides, right? You can absolutely have notes this afternoon. I do not expect you all to memorize everything. But that is why I kind of asked you to do your opening and your closing sentence and your bullet points in the middle. So that is your guide if you need it when you're speaking. But your slides are there to keep your audience excited and to keep them on track. So let me take you through some do's and don'ts with visuals. Full-size images have great impact. They grab people's attention. You guys have access to, I think, 200 images from yesterday. Use them. Use them with phrases on them, with keywords, with quotes. If you're going to do multiple images, they should be cleanly laid out in a grid. So they're not like all over the place, laid on top of one another with shadows and all this kind of other stuff. The less distraction, the better. Keep the titles the same font, and if you can, and the body text the same font. It's about consistency. It will look cleaner. It will look like, even though there are 4 or 5 of you speaking, you have done this together. Keep the font size big, or people aren't going to be able to read it. Which is again why you don't put every single thing you're going to say on the slide, because you want just the key phrases here. Make sure that you use colors on colors that people can actually see. So no like bright yellow on white, no dark gray on black. Make sure that you are spell checking and proofreading your slides, because being someone that cannot spell at all, and I'm also terrible at proofing, I do try to have someone else read my stuff before it goes up, because a fresh set of eyes. So just know that about yourself, but try to read it through. Keep your graphs simple but accurate. Okay? This is actually an accurate graph. This is a biologist, Philip Howard, talking about how as you get older, the likelihood of dying increases in the same rate. But you see what I mean? And actually, I have to tell you that I didn't even see what this graph was when he was doing his talk until the photograph afterwards, because I was so focused on what he was saying. But it's brilliant. So if you're going to use visuals like this, make sure they're accurate. Like, don't have your axes completely mislabeled so you're doing something weird with them, but keep it simple. Make sure people can understand with a glance what you're trying to say here.